Actually, Jake, we were talking about it before.
I'm gonna head out.
I guess you guys.
You had the pleasure of taking the trip across the pond to see the disaster. Like, you know how they go and visit disaster areas, like the presidents go around and see the damage and stuff.
FEMA went over.
So you pulled one of those to see the disaster up on the coast. How bad is the damage? Can you report back to us?
It's pretty bad. Yeah, I would say worse than reported. When you're on the ground zero, it's really tough. I unfortunately had to sit in the home section of both games I went to because we couldn't get away tickets. So I had to be quiet and not cheer for Tottenham and stand around Arsenal and then Everton fans going crazy, and it was not a fun experience at all. I wouldn't wish it.
Pretty bleak.
Wouldn't wish it upon anyone. So, and then I come back.
Are you in gear, by the way? Like, did you take?
No, you can't. You'll get thrown out of the home section if you're sporting away team gear. So I was undercover.
Like you were celebrating when Everton scored?
No, I played it very, very cool. My brother is an Everton fan, so
that helps.
He was going crazy. So it was a great day for him, honestly.
I'm just a scout. Yeah.
Really, really happy for him. But I went over there to see Spurs play 2 games, and they didn't look great at all in either game. Obviously, the Arsenal one was expected, but you're playing at Everton, who manager change. Maybe you're looking for that bounce, but not 3 goals in the first half. Sort of bounce. Everton are not that team, but Tottenham just kind of put on a platter for them and said, "How about you score a little bit? We feel a little bad for you. Like, well, we're also bad, but you're historically you're worse, and we're just going to try to meet you there. And we're headed straight for them. We're 1 point ahead of them, and they've got a game in hand. So we could be 16th next week." It's great. It's sunny days here as a Tottenham fan. I stopped drinking this month, so don't even have that to fall back on. It's I don't know, man. What, the 28th of January? This year is going to be long. It's going to be a long year.
I don't think there's enough alcohol in the world anyway. It's a good thing at least it saves your wallets for the most part that you would invest in alcohol. I mean, losing at home to Leicester City, I was watching the post game. I mean, Ryan is asking the question, is it all hinging on the Liverpool game next week, if they make it to Wembley or not? And is that enough?
There's been a lot of speculation about that. I think it's enough for sure. We are same odds to win the EFL Cup as we are to win the Europa League, which is 5-1, which is not. I mean, I'd take those odds any day of the week for Spurs to get a trophy this season. So I can't see a huge upside to changing the manager, but I mean, could there be much more of a downside? Because it's pretty low. So I'm all on board just to ride out the season as long as we don't get relegated. It doesn't matter if we finish outside. We could finish outside of Europe. There's all those theories about a season outside of Europe is good to refresh and get less game time and put it in a better league performance. But I don't know. I think he lasts longer than people think. I think that he gets the result at home on Thursday against Elfsborg to get the top 8 qualification in Europa. And then it comes down to that Liverpool match, which I'm definitely not optimistic about. I will say Van de Ven and Romero should be healthy for that, which gives us like the slightest bit of hope, because I think it's going to have to be a defensive masterclass for us because, we have the advantage going into Anfield. But I think if you guys score early, it's gonna be bad. So
mind you, that advantage under shady circumstances where the guy doesn't get a red card and like 2 seconds later.
I don't know.
Let's
not sure about that.
But okay, so let me ask you this, because I'm big on these blame pies.
Okay.
If you make a blame pie for the state of Tottenham right now, How much of it is injuries? How much of it is Postecoglou? How much of it is, upper management? Pass out the slices.
I would say 50% would be for injuries. That's a big part of it. We're very thin, and the system that he plays, you need the rotation, and we just don't have it. But then it's also the system that he's playing causing the injuries, I believe. So I'm gonna go 35% and his stubbornness and not changing when we don't have the personnel, and then what's the math here? 15% to Levy. I graduated high school and college. But yeah, so because they haven't brought anyone in except Kinski in January, and we're hurting, so they're just relying on us getting by, not getting too deep in the relegation battle before everyone comes back. So I love the strategy. It's really bold.
I was going to ask you that. Is that because everybody's getting healthy, or is it like we don't want to pull a United where we give the guy who we might end up canning some money to bring players, and then we're going to bring another manager who's going to be like, who the hell bought these guys in January?
I don't think it's that latter point. I think it's more so people are coming back, and also what's the draw to Tottenham? Like, what's your pitch to a player to say, hey, come join this team. We're 15th in the league. Everyone that joins this team gets hurt right away and misses a big chunk of time. You're gonna love it here, and that's the elevator pitch, and everyone walks right out of the elevator.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like a weird situation to take over too. But I mean, let's all have pies over here. Alex, I mean, are you passing out the slices the same way for us looking from outside? And there's like injuries. Liverpool has been a similar situation where I think we had a very, very similar situation where Klopp was persistent on playing the same thing despite not having eventually had to adjust. I feel like Postecoglou is even more stubborn and hesitant to adjust, but how do you pass out those slices over there?
Yeah, I think there'd be less from what I'm seeing online from folks, just on the general Twitter, X, whatever, is that there's more. I'm seeing a ton more anger and vitriol towards Levy and the ownership. I don't know why. I'm not like neck deep in it, so I don't really know if that's just years of kind of not being at the stature Spurs fans think they should be. But there's a sense, and even from the outside looking in, it's not like Ange walked into an excellent situation. So it's not like he's tanking this supercar. He was hired for a reason because the last manager got fired. So he's walking into a situation that isn't ideal. And so I think, if I had to redo it based on what I've seen, it's probably 30% injuries, 30% Ange, and then 40% ownership is really not supporting him in this way, like you said, Jake. So that's what I've seen online is probably what I'd put it as. But I'm not neck deep in the sad Twitter spaces that I'm sure Jake has been in the last couple of weeks.
It's definitely the feeling amongst fans, especially if you take the wide view and look at the last 5 to 10 to 26 years is what they're also looking at. And that's where the ownership comes in. They're like, it's a fundamental systematic problem with the actual the club itself and who's running it. But this season I'm giving them a little less blame, but overall, sure.
Yeah. That's real fun space to be online.
Yeah.
But I think, Glenn, some of the reason, and I don't know, I mean, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what I see is a lot goes towards management because they look at the past managers and they're all like moved on and back to being successful, pretty much like all of them, whereas the club is where it's at. So it's almost like, hey, the common denominator over here is Levy and how they run the club. So the managers changing, players changing really has not changed anything.
Yeah, I think so. And it feels quite similar to Man United in some ways. There's definitely parallels between, an administration that's clearly not succeeding on the field and is going through managers, year by year. Good quality managers, even if their styles of play, aren't always the most enthusiastic to watch. But I mean, I agree. It's just a mess at the minute, isn't it? And, you've got the stadium's been a real focal point of an achievement, and it is a beautiful stadium. And that is a success. And fans are saying that, we're glad to have this great arena. But, if you're playing really poor quality football in it week in, week out, and you're in the bottom half, bottom 2/3 of the table at the minute, it's just showing that the priorities aren't quite there. And again, it's just, it's being run in the way a lot of English Premier League clubs are, which is if it's profitable off the field, then the on-the-field results don't matter as much, right? They pale in comparison to maybe it's the NFL games or these other things, these events you can stage, these shows and gigs and all this kind of stuff. So when the football, which for all the fans and certainly most of us who are just engaged with the game, the football's the priority, but when that isn't the case, these things pile up, right? And this is definitely Angie's situation is the product of over a decade of neglect on the field. And, even just look at the recruitment in the summer. I appreciate looking at younger players and planning for the future, but that feels a little short-sighted now because you just get an inexperienced squad, one of the youngest playing now, right, in the Premier League. And when the injuries do pile up, it's challenging. But lots of clubs, look at Bournemouth. This is the comparison. They've got a stack of injuries. They're thriving. Look at us. We've had loads of injuries the last year and a half. Yeah, we've been up and down, and results have sometimes echoed those injuries. But when all said and done, Tottenham Hotspur should have a good enough squad to not be 17th even with a boatload of injuries, right? And that's what people are looking at and criticizing. But yeah, it's a sorry time for the club, and it's a cup. It's going to be a cup season for them, isn't it, Jake? It's like you winning a cup or you not. That's where you're at, and that's the bottom line for Ange as well.
Well, good thing that's happened relatively recently.
Nice. Good bit.
That's wrong.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. That's rich. hey, I will not take this Inter Toto Cup erasure here, Jake. Actually, thank you very much.
I'm not sure what that is. We got the Audi Cup, man. Come on.
The infamous Audi Cup. Here's the thing. Spurs is almost run very NFL-like. Actually, funny you mentioned that. They're like, we're making money, so what seems to be the problem over here kind of thing in terms of their wage structure and stuff like that. Actually, the